there was this ICE raid yesterday at a roofing company up in Bellingham called Mount Baker Roofing. This from the Bellingham Herald. ICE agents detained nearly 40 employees during morning raid at Whatcom County business. So I'll read a couple quotes from this that I think are important from ICE, but just a few details on this raid. 37 people who, according to the Herald, fraudulently represented their immigration status and submitted fraudulent documents and or information to seek employment. So they were arrested for administrative reasons. And then one worker who was there told the Bellingham Herald, just to give you an idea of this particular company and how many people were working there without proper authorization. One worker said ICE took more than half of the workforce of Mount Baker Roofing. So if you were thinking that you were going to get your roof work done yesterday somewhere in the area, no one showed up, this might have been it. And they were also looking for other workers who were not there at the time. So at least more than half of the workforce, according to this one worker, of one roofing company was allegedly working there illegally. Okay, that's significant. So here's what ICE said in a statement that the Bellingham Herald published. ICE HSI investigates worksite violations and or the exploitation of workers. Worksite enforcement investigations focus on reducing illegal employment, holding employers accountable, and protecting employment opportunities for the country's lawful workforce. So before I get to the next part of this, which is the statement from the roofing company owner, which opens up a whole nother can of worms I need to discuss. To me, when you look at this the trafficking was mentioned. There's such a gamut here, right? It can be people who have authorization to be in the U.S., but not authorization to work. It can be instances like this where you have people who, according to ICE, had fraudulent documents and fraudulent paperwork. So they took extra steps to be here illegally, fraudulently employed, etc. So there's other issues there. And then you have straight up human trafficking, or people who are brought in under some sort of pretense and they're working in some sort of for like maybe even no money. I mean, slavery, because they're paying off the debt from being trafficked over here. So there's really a large sort of swath of things that have to do with ICE's enforcement of illegal workplace activity. But in this, you've got more than 40 people fraudulently employed, and it wasn't clear based on the story, because they said they submitted fraudulent documents. Just based on the story, it wasn't clear, did this roofing company know, right? Was this roofing company aware that at least maybe more than half its workforce didn't have any paperwork to be legally employed? So here's what the guy says. And I don't know his politics. I don't know anything about him other than he owns a roofing company that was the subject of this raid. His name is Mark Kuski. These hardworking individuals were actively supporting our community by helping to build the homes and install the roofs that protect us all from the elements. Okay. I hate to laugh. Many of these individuals are active members of local churches, schools, and communities. Okay, so I'm going to take that first part of his statement. None of that matters. Literally none of that matters. You don't get to like come into the United States because you're going to go to church or you're going to show up at your kids' soccer games. That's not a justification for you being illegal in the United States or for you submitting false paperwork to be able to work, even if you are helping to build the homes and install the roofs that protect us all from the elements, okay? So let's move on to the second part of his statement. He says, we cannot ignore the larger implications of today's events. Policies like the enforcement action carried out today directly harm small businesses like ours, making it increasingly difficult to operate and further inflating the prices paid by consumers. That's where he tells on himself. What I read in that is, if I had to hire Americans, I'd have to pay them too much money.
Yep.
That's how I read that. And look, to me, he should be mad at Washington state Democrats. If the cost of running his business is too high, if the ever-increasing minimum wage is too high, he should be mad at Washington state Democrats. Not at ICE. So that statement, and I don't know for sure, to me it sounds like he knew they were not authorized to work here when he says it'll be increasingly difficult to operate and inflate the prices paid by consumers. So I feel like he's telling on himself, but also it's like saying, I don't want to hire Americans, I have to pay them too much, so I'm going to use illegal labor. And so as soon as I read that, I didn't care anymore. I didn't feel bad for anyone. I didn't feel bad for the business. I didn't feel bad for people who were waiting to get their roof put on. At the end of the day, I mean, skilled labor like that is a good job. And if you're going to just say and just give a big middle finger to the law and say, oh, the public doesn't like it, so we're not going to conduct these raids, you will have a lot of American jobs lost to immigrant workers who they're going to pay less money to by unscrupulous employers. And where does that stop? And by the way, you don't think that these raids were happening under the Biden administration? You don't think that these raids were happening under the Obama administration? This isn't a new thing under Trump where all of a sudden they say, hey, let's enforce all of the nation's immigration laws. Hey, let's go do a raid at a company that seems to be almost exclusively employing people with fraudulent documents. These raids have happened for years and years and years. But when they happen under Trump, they're treated differently. In the media, in the eyes of the public. I worked in a newsroom. If under Barack Obama, when I first started working at Fox 13, if we had got a tip that there was an immigration raid happening at a workplace, we never would have sent a crew. We never would have sent a crew. Absolutely not. It wouldn't have been this story because, oh, Trump's focused on immigration. Oh, and he's, directing them to go round up workers. And not only, let's say we did go under the Obama administration. That story would have been positive. That story would have been framed as, oh my gosh, this company was employing 40 people who had fraudulent documents. Not framed like the Bellingham Herald framed it. When you read this full story, it's pretty wild, the details, right? They have that one quote from ICE explaining what ICE did. But then they insert all these very sad lines. And I'm not saying I have a heart. I'm not saying there's not a human element. I'm not saying these people don't have families. I'm not saying that they don't have friends in the community who will miss them. I'm not saying that they weren't doing important work, building homes and roofs for people, okay? I have a heart, but I can separate that from the legality of it. So this reporter with the Bellingham Herald, and look, Bellingham's a very, very, very progressive place, is inserting all these details. ICE agents barred friends, family, and other workers from the building, leaving them to gather outside. Yeah, they were doing an enforcement operation. You don't just get to wander around while they're carrying it out. You would never do that for any other law enforcement operation. It had, according to one worker, ICE took more than half of the workforce and said they were looking for other workers who were not there at the time. There was this one other line I saw. Oh, here it is. ICE agents were wearing masks and arrived in unmarked vehicles. They make this sound like literally out of a movie. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, unmarked vehicles. Whoa, they wouldn't let the family inside and all this stuff. It's like, you think it ever would have been covered that way, let alone covered at all under Biden and Obama? Not a chance. Not a chance. I'll do a peripheral search, see what kind of local news coverage there were on these issues. But these raids didn't just start under Donald Trump. And when you're employing that many people with fraudulent documents, they're not going to let you just give a middle finger to the law. They're just not. So I'm sorry if that's mean. I'm sorry if that's heartless. But yeah, I mean, American workers, you talk about wanting to support American workers and local workers and make sure people are paid their fair share. How much do the left and the socialists? That's their key thing. Raise the minimum wage. $25 an hour. Make sure people are paid their fair share. Unionize. Workers' rights. You know what undermines all of that stuff you fight for? Businesses that bring in cheap illegal labor. So really, the socialists and the progressives should be on Donald Trump's side of this. But they're stuck because they're trying to fight. They're trying to decide between, oh my gosh, radical ideology and identitarianism where, preference based on skin color and immigration status and orange man bad, and them wanting a better life for workers in the United States. This is a really troubling situation for them. So it's just fascinating. But yeah, it does not bother me. Is that mean? Have I grown cold and heartless? It does not bother me one bit.
I am sure that there are some stories that would really touch our hearts and be
yes.
oh, I wish they could stay. But I feel like we gave them an opportunity. We said, hey, self-deport, and maybe we'll let you back in.
Yeah.
And we'll give you this path to maybe get back in. But you chose to work. And this guy, I mean, I really think this owner knew. I mean, he absolutely knew what he was doing, because most of these guys didn't speak English.
Yeah.
It sounds like there was a translator even for this
Allegedly,
article.
just so we don't get in trouble. We think he probably knew based on his quote.
But yeah, so I just think that they were kind of given the chance. That's how it works. I can't go to Australia and just be like, I want to live here now.
I want to work on the kangaroo farm, which I know you would.
I absolutely would. So I feel bad, but I don't feel like there's any way to get around this. This is what's going to happen if you come here illegally, or you're going to live on edge waiting for it to happen, or whatever it is. But I feel like we got to enforce these laws.
Right?
You made that choice.
And it's not either or. It's not either they're doing this operation or they're rounding up criminal illegals who are like hurting people and trafficking drugs. They're doing both. They're doing multiple things a day, and they have different agents who are doing different things. The only sympathy I have in all this is for the Dreamers. I think DACA recipients, first of all, I don't know if they're continuing to give people any sort of DACA protections, but the set that was initially given protections came, brought here as children, their parents dragged them here, whatever it is. I do think that it would be a huge no-brainer win for Donald Trump to finally be the one to give citizenship to Dreamers. There's no reason not to, as long as they've committed no new law violations while they've been under DACA. No reason. Both sides have said at periods of time that they want citizenship for Dreamers, but both of them use them as political pawns to get other things that they want. Can you imagine? What would the left say if after all this time of demanding and screaming for citizenship for Dreamers, that it's Donald Trump that puts pen to paper and signs it into law and makes them lawful permanent citizens of the United States? It would be forever in history. It would be Donald Trump who did it, right? And a Republican-controlled Congress. You could do it today. Republicans could push it through. Democrats would have no choice but to vote yes, although they'd probably find a reason. No, he's doing this for political reasons, so we'll vote no, on citizenship for Dreamers, because Democrats have blocked it before. That is one thing that I wish Donald Trump would do today, especially as he focuses in all these other areas. To me, that's a no-brainer. It's overwhelmingly popular for the American people. As long as they have, again, no new law violations, I don't think DACA should continue. I think you give people citizenship and there is no more DACA, because you don't want to encourage it, right? You don't want to say like, oh, those children who are brought here got citizenship, so let's just keep bringing children in. So,
along with that, I think there's some cases that I've been hearing where people have been here 40 years, their kids are here, and they've been in the system. They've been trying to get citizenship. They're not trying to hide from anybody. They're not working illegally. Those people,
there's a case out of California.
There was a case out of California that was like that. And I'm like, wait, those people, take them and say, this is like, we understand, we like humanity, and we are understanding of this problem. And like I said, they were in the system. So it's not like they were hiding from anybody or doing anything else illegal. They've been here 40 years. And obviously and they said they were fleeing, what's the word I'm looking for?
Poverty, war, famine.
Yes, whatever. So I just think that they should be looked at differently. And that those little moments, like you said, handling the Dreamers and dealing with a couple like that in a humane way would probably give a little more weight to some of these issues where these people were all breaking the law multiple times.
Yeah, 100%. And it had fraudulent documents. They went out of their way. And who gave them the fraudulent documents? And who's hooking them up with that? Probably some sort of immigrant rights group that is getting taxpayer funds in the state of Washington, frankly. All right. So that's what I have to say about that. Sorry. Sorry, Bellingham lefties who are going to come for me now. Why can't I just have a day where I'm not worried about people threatening me online?